Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Power Vacuum. I'm your host, Belmont, and I'm coming at you with a little unplanned story. Well, not story, an article. I wasn't actually going to cover this subject until somebody sent me this article on X, and I read it, and I was like, holy shit, this article is kind of illustrates how bad of a person or a ill-informed person, at least, Rachel Zegler really is. And this is the title. This is from Variety, as you can see. Rachel Zegler on reinventing Snow White and Juliet and facing off against toxic Disney fans. I've watched women get torn down my whole life. I'll address that later. I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm going to kind of do like a Cliff Notes version of it. But she's apparently going to be in a new version of Romeo and Juliet, along with where is it? Kit Connor, and produced by Sam Gold. I don't know who either of these people are, but then again, I'm not really up to date with actors, as it were. But this is what really caught my attention. The play is going to have the tagline, "The youth are fucked." And I was like, oh boy, this is not going to be good. And it says right here, in other words, you won't see them donning tunics or Elizabethan ruffs. Gold's vision leans heavily on the culture of its Gen Z cast. And Zegler offers her own take. Juliet would be having a brat girl summer. She says, joking that, like Carly XCX and Lorde, the Montagues and Capulets will work it out in the revival. Despite the 21st century edge and new music from pop super producer Jack Antonoff, I don't know who that guy is, and the fact that they're injecting pop music into it has me concerned. Gold is sticking to the original text. It's 100% iambic pentameter, Zegler says. This is Shakespeare, and you're sitting your ass down for the play. One, I got to stop right there. I think the reason my friend sent me this is because he knows that I majored in English literature and with a minor in not world history. Boy, I fucked that up. World religion, which, by the way, yeah, I know, boring degrees all around me, but this really annoys me because there's not one Shakespeare play that is 100% iambic pentameter, right? Not one. Like, he likes to add prose. He breaks away from iambic pentameter whenever he's having a character express emotions in extreme levels of it, at least. And I can just think of let me pull it out of my head. It is the East, and Juliet is the sun. It's 11 syllables. That's not iambic pentameter, right? It's like one of the most famous lines from the entire play. Another, it's not really a famous line. It's one of my favorite lines from the play. Is either thou or I or both must go with him, right? And it's Romeo talking about how, you can't take a life and then let them travel to the underworld alone. And it's just ridiculous that they would let her say this. It's like somebody told her that the play was in iambic pentameter, because a large portion of the play is. But, there's a lot of dialogue sequences, especially from Juliet herself, that are not in iambic pentameter, because Shakespeare broke away from it constantly. And while most of his plays use a lot of iambic pentameter, he also adds prose into his plays. Although I don't think there's very much or any prose in Romeo and Juliet, because it's like a I gotta remember this. It's been a while since I've tapped into this part of my brain. It's I'll think of it later. I guarantee it. Broken rhyme? No. I'm messing it up right now. Whatever. My point is, I've already cited two examples where they aren't an iambic pentameter because he doesn't hold true to that. None of his plays are 100% iambic pentameter. It's not the Divine Comedy, which, or Paradise Lost, which I believe Paradise Lost is completely an iambic pentameter, beginning to end, like perfectly all the way through. But whatever. That's just the first lie. Again, she could just be mistaken or somebody told her to say this. Doesn't matter. Those words came out of her mouth. It's a lie, right? And then what was the next thing? Something about Snow White that I wanted to see. West Side Story I didn't care about. See, Zegler's meteoric rise. For as long as she's been famous, she's been the subject of ruthless and relentless criticism. That should tell you something, right? No one is completely hated. No one is completely loved. There are people that are going to love you. There are people that are going to hate you. That's true to every major famous person. Doesn't matter what you do. Someone will love you. Someone will hate you. You're going to get it from both sides. I don't think she's a DEI hire. I think Disney's just making horrible casting decisions, as they have done for years. Filming the Hunger Games. Oh yeah, she was in that horrible flop of a Hunger Games movie, which I don't know what they're thinking. Nobody gives a crap about the Hunger Games. Nobody was interested in the last Hunger Games movie from the main series starring Jennifer Lawrence and what's his name? Josh Hutcherson? Futterman from the Future Man show, which is a way better role for that guy. Loved it. Oh, I guess he's also Mike from Five Nights at Freddy now, right? That's a way more important. He's going to be way more remembered for that than he will be for the Hunger Games. God, where was it? I should have highlighted it. She's giggling now. And people really... Oh, yeah, this is one of those things that really bothered me. When she was in the Hunger Games, they were in Poland for Hunger Games, apparently. It's not until you have to go around the world filming in different cities that you realize how grateful you are for the diversity of New York, she says. When I came home from my year in Europe, going to my bodega where people speak Spanish to me, I was like, oh my God, and I missed you, Enrique. Bro, the entitlement on this chick. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you get to travel around the world, go to different countries, view beautiful landscapes, getting paid hundreds of thousands of, if not millions of dollars to do this? And yet, oh, I miss New York because, it's not diverse enough in the rest of the world. This is one of the things that drives me nuts about people. Diversity is so much more than the color of your skin. There is so much more to diversity. There's diversity of thought, diversity of ideas, diversity of religion, diversity of location. But to these single-minded people, and especially the current generation of Hollywood people, diversity is just what color is your skin. That's it. That's how shallow they are. They are only skin deep. Drives me bonkers. And people really wear whatever the fuck they want. Really? This is what she said? Yeah, I don't care. Her appointment as the apple-eating stepdaughter of the evil queen drew instant ire online, with many promising to boycott the film due to woke casting. Yeah. They literally refused to cast dwarf actors because Peter Dinklage and his dumb fucking ass won't shut his stupid mouth, ruining it for other people. It's he's wants to be the only dwarf actor in Hollywood. He called the movie archaic, not understanding that the dwarves in Snow White are magical creatures. They're not people with dwarfism. They are literally fairy tale creatures that mine gems and diamonds. And just to think that they kowtowed to this little bastard is insane. That they destroyed the chance to have 7 new actors, 7 dwarfs get work in Hollywood because one little tiny angry fucking... Well, what does Bud Lightyear say? You are a sad, strange little man. And that's exactly how I feel about Peter Dinklage and his attitude towards this whole thing. But where was I? To them, the actress's Colombian heritage disqualified her from playing the princess from Disney's 1937 musical fantasy, describing as having hair as black as ebony and skin as white as snow, and you forgot lips as red as blood. That's in the original script, guys. Of course, the original script, it's not the stepmother, it's the mother. If you go back and read the original Brothers Grimm's fairy tales, then they were, when they did their reprinting, they changed it to the stepmother to make it more kid friendly because they didn't want kids to be afraid of their mother. But, you know, having them be afraid of their stepmother's kind of just as bad in a way. But no, it wasn't your Colombian heritage. Because I've known people who are Colombian. I'm Spanish and Puerto Rican, and I'm pale. And I've known Colombian people. I've known Hispanic people and other, you know, Latinas that are pale, like goth princess pale. So it wasn't your heritage, it was the color of your skin, because that's what's important for the character of Snow White. And she was my mom's favorite princess. She originally said it was her favorite princess. When she was growing up, there were a lot of dark-haired princesses. That was the one she could relate to. I'm so sick of this thing of being, I have to relate to people that look like me. That's not how it works. You don't believe me? Ask anybody who's a fan of anime. There's an entire sect of people out there that don't look like Goku. They don't have huge rippling muscles and pitch black hair and brown eyes that turn to bright green eyes and blonde hair and have lightning crackling off their body, but there's a massive following for Dragon Ball Z. And it's not because, I look like that character, I identify them. It's because of the hero's journey. It's because they identify with their character, the content of their character, and not the color of their skin. I don't know where this shallow shit came from, being like, I can only identify with people I look like. That's ridiculous. You're a shallow individual and you have no value to submit to society if that's the case, because what are you doing? You only care about the way people look? You don't care about what they do or what they're capable of or their minds, their hearts, just their skin? Get out. Get out of here. It's no surprise that Snow White director Mark Webb wanted Zegler for the role. I don't know why. He says his script supervisor wept upon hearing her singing voice. Oh, wow. Sure. That sounds like some bullshit right there. Another lie in this article. Inheritance, grace, poison, goodness. That reminds me so much of what is essential. Goodness? She's so bitter. What are they talking about? God, where's the part? I'm going to have to search this article if I can't find it soon. As for that line about skin as white as snow, this is the part that my friend wanted me to read. He didn't know that I would actually go off on a tangent about Shakespeare to him, which I did. And he was just like, whoa, I was talking about the Snow White stuff, not the Romeo and Juliet stuff. And I was like, well, the Romeo and Juliet stuff's at the top of the article, bro. You sent me a thing. You sent me a thing that talks about Shakespeare. And you expect me not to comment about it? Okay, well that's your fault. But let me get back to this. I'm raving over here. Skin as White as Snow. Zegler reveals that the new film has its own origin story for her name. It fell back to another version of Snow White that was told in history, where she survived a snowstorm that occurred when she was a baby, she says. And so the king and queen decided to name her Snow White to remind her of her resilience. One of the core points in our film for any young woman or young person is remembering how strong you actually are. This is a lie. When I read this, I was like, I don't recall this version of Snow White. I've read a couple of versions of Snow White. I've even Snow White and Red Rose. I might be mixing that up. It might be Red Rose and Snow White, or it might be a slightly different name. It's about two sisters. One's red, one's white. One wears red, one wears white, and it's about Oh man, I gotta remember this. It's about a gnome and a bear, I think. Might be a badger. No, that's a different story. Yeah, I don't know. It's about a prince that's been turned into an animal by either a gnome or an evil elf or something like that. It's been a long time since I've read that story. I'm rambling. I tried looking for this though. I was like alternate versions of Snow White, alternate stories, and well, here let me see if I can Google it real quick. Version of Snow White, where she's. Oh man, I can't type on this. Named after a blizzard. There isn't much information about a version of Snow White where she's named after a blizzard, but some related information about the Snow White story. Sneewitchen. It's actually Sneewitchen. Wait, this actually might be the original pronunciation. Yeah, no. It's a lie. There is no version of this story that she's talking about. It doesn't exist, like at all, that I can find. I have searched. I spent like at least a solid hour before filming this video reading various versions of Snow White, at least the first couple of paragraphs, to see if any of them mention this process. None of them do. None of them. Like, I even read some versions that I had to translate because, like, France has their own version and Italy has their own version and Japan even has a similar story that's kind of like this. I was like, oh, maybe it's the Japanese one she's talking about. Nope. Not that. I don't know where she got this line. This is some shit made up by Disney or by Zegler herself. And I don't want to say she made it up herself because I don't know if she's versed in the world enough to make up this kind of lie. But this is just some bullshit. It's not true at all. And if anybody out there can find this story for me, please send it to me because I want to read it and I want to know what actually happens in it because I don't think it has anything to do with Snow White. And I didn't even look up if there's stories about children who are named after blizzards in general. I was specifically looking for Snow White. They might be naming a non-Snow White story and just attributing it to Snow White, kind of like how Todd Phillips attributed the Joker to his movie about mental illness, even though it doesn't have anything to do with Batman or the Joker. But yeah, it's insane that they just made this lie up for this because they know there's nothing else to go on. They know every version of Snow White is skin as white as snow, hair as black as ebony, and lips as red as blood. And they just cut the lips part out because it's kind of creepy sounding. Rips as red as blood. You know, I get it. Lips as red as blood. But to discount the fact that every version of Snow White is about her skin, and then that lie they told later about changing fairest to mean literally the fairest, who is most fair, as in judicial punishment, is absurd to the extreme. Because fairest, especially in like the early 19th century, was usually used to attribute beauty, right? And that's what they were talking about. It has nothing to do with being the arbiter of moral standing. Nothing at all. It's all about who's prettier, who's got nicer skin. And the queen was fine with it up until Snow White turned 7. And the mirror's like, yeah, it's her. And then she just grew to resent her more and more every year until she was like 13 or 14, I think, in the original story. But man, yeah, the social media outrage about Zegler being cast as Snow White only got louder as time went on, because she began saying in red carpet interviews in the summer of 2022 that her version of the iconic princess wouldn't spend her days pining over a man. She called aspects of the original story weird and said that the 1937 film's prince literally stalks Snow White. Overnight, online trolls took shots at Zegler's disdain for the animated classic, deeming her unworthy of portraying the OG Disney heroine. It wasn't just trolls. It was tons and tons of people. And to say that everyone that disagreed with his online trolls is completely disingenuous and redirection of the facts. And she grows somber, recalling the hate that erupted during the time. In all honesty, it made me sad that it was taken in such a way, because I believe that women can do anything, but I also believe that they can do everything. How are those statements different? If you can do anything, then of course you can do everything. But can women do everything? Can women impregnate themselves without the need of a man? Can man impregnate himself without the need of a woman? There are certain things that the opposite sex are needed for. It's called biology. But that's a whole nother discussion. Zegler says, what she meant to convey was that Snow White wants romance but has other goals too. I would never want to box someone in and say, if you want love, then you can't work, or if you want to work, then you can't have a family. It's not true. It's never been true. It can be very upsetting when things get taken out of context or jokes don't land. You literally said that every scene of the prince might get cut out of the movie because that's Hollywood, baby. Are your literal words. So don't, this is just gaslighting to the highest order. The love story is very integral. Is it? When every scene can be cut out, is the love story integral? If his entire role was cut completely out of the movie, that's not integral at all. That's unnecessary, is what that is. A lot of people wrote that we weren't doing that storyline anymore. We were always doing that. It just wasn't that we were talking about on that day. Fucking. So she said she was joking in this.
What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
So no prince, or a different kind of prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story, just because, like, we cast a guy.
We'll assume is a love story. Oh, but the love story is integral. It's integral to it, right? Are we sure it's very integral? I don't know. Let's continue this interview.
In the movie,
right.
Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really
straight from her own mouth. Yet here we are. Oh, the love story is very integral. A lot of people wrote that we weren't doing that storyline anymore. We were always doing that. I don't know which way this video is under me, but
really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. But
yeah, that's it. Yeah. Straight from her own mouth. And yet in this interview, she's telling the exact opposite. This person lies like a politician. Like she tells lies as if everything she said before hasn't been documented, recorded, and put out there for everyone to see. I was shocked when I read this part of the article originally. I was like, holy shit. This is a vagrant lie. Like blatant dishonesty, gaslighting to the extreme. Like, don't worry, baby. The lights have always been that dim. No. You don't know what you're talking about. They've always been that dim. Always. It's insane. It's insanity. Like, I hope this movie bombs harder than anything Disney has done. This movie has to be costing them $500 million right now, because they're on, I think, their third set of reshoots. They're having to redo all the CGI. I heard a rumor, but I don't like to support rumors because, you know, there's never validity to them, really, unless you're that guy who's leaking Star Wars plots on Reddit. That dude's been spot on every time. But I heard a rumor that they are redoing the CGI dwarves again because of the negative reaction. I don't know if that's true, and I don't support it at all. It is a rumor. But yeah, I'm going to stop there. I didn't read the rest of the article past this point. As soon as I got here, I was like, that's it. I have to make a video about this because I'm going to lose my freaking mind if I don't talk to something, even if it's just my camera, even if it's just a few people that watch this video. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for tolerating my madness. And yeah, that's about all I have for this video. So Belmont out.